Cape Cod Broadcasting weaves the listening environments of 99.9 WQRC, Ocean 104.7, WFCC Classical 107.5, Cape Country 104, and CapeCon.com's website experience to reflect the lifestyles of the people who live, work, and play on Cape Cod. We hope that you enjoy this podcast.
I'm Laura Reckford, and this is Sunday Journal. I'm here in the studio with Brenda Swain, Executive Director of the Falmouth Service Center, which is one of Cape Cod's largest food pantries, but the Falmouth Service Center does so much more than that. We'll talk about that. Brenda, welcome to the show.
Good morning, Laura. I'm thrilled to be here.
Let's start with giving a history of the Falmouth Service Center because it's an organization that's been around for a while, but some people in other parts of the Cape might not know about it.
Sure, absolutely. Falmouth Service Center was incorporated in 1983. What happened was several of the people in the faith community, along with Peter Kerwin, who at that time was the Director of Human Services in Falmouth, made the determination that there were a lot of folks who needed help, and they were going to many different places in a disjointed manner. They would show up at the door of one of the churches or faith places, and they wouldn't really have any connection to other services. So they got together and they decided we need a local place where everyone can go, and we can make referrals to that place. And that's how Falmouth Service Center was initiated way back in 1983. We moved 4 times in the first 20 years, and in the mid-90s, Margaret Huff Russell was on the board along with Bob Murray and Elias Lieberman and Peter Kerwin and a lot of other Falmouth people who knew that there was a greater need, and if we had a larger stationary space, we could meet many more needs than just being a food pantry. So they started a building campaign. We started the Enterprise Community Fund in the mid-90s, and as a result of those initiatives, in 2002, land was purchased and a building was built and put at 611 Gifford Street in Falmouth, where we have been ever since.
It's amazing how this organization has come together, as you said, starting just as a food pantry and now having this major part in the community of helping people in need in all aspects of their lives. What is your mission now?
Our mission, in a nutshell, is to ease stress and reduce hunger. That comes in all sorts of shapes and forms. Oftentimes when someone comes through the door for the first time, they're actually not even asking for food. So it's really all those stressors that impact people in an area like Falmouth and on Cape Cod, where people think, if you're not from here, everything's wonderful and beautiful. But if you live here, we know there are so many issues that face people who are trying to make a living and sustain their families or themselves here.
Let's start by talking about the food pantry part of this organization and how that's grown from when you started way back in 83.
Well, Laura, I wasn't there in 83. That's actually the year I moved to Falmouth. But even in the last 13 years, I began in 2002. And the first year that we had statistics for food in our pantry in the new building, we gave out 5,888 bags. In 2014, we gave out 48,752.
That is unbelievable.
Yeah.
The growth is incredible.
It is. And we had 12,448 household visits last year. And we have close to 6,000 households in our database. So we have grown exponentially, to say the least. And most of that is there is an increased need, but it's increased visibility. It's the opportunity to have the space where you can have the volunteers to provide the services. And when you're more visible, those who need you also can find you.
Is it throughout the Upper Cape, or what is the region that you're dealing with?
Our geographical boundaries are really Falmouth, Mashpee, Joint Base Cape Cod, and anyone who works in the Falmouth community but may live in another area and travel here for work. Because we know that if you're coming here for work, many of the other Upper Cape pantries are open much less limited. They're limited hours compared to the 20 hours we're open a week. So, and we also partner with other agencies like Community Action and We Can and other programs that have clients who come for services at our location. And if they're coming for those services, they're also able to get food when they come.
And I know the Service Center does food drives periodically throughout the year. How can people give food? Because you need a lot of food to keep that going.
We certainly do. And that's a huge part of what we want to encourage people to do, because we, in 2012, when we had been in the new building 10 years, did a renovation to make it more client-centered and created a whole section that is client choice related to those canned goods. So the purchase product, or the product that we get from the Greater Boston Food Bank through the Massachusetts Emergency Food Allocation, or USDA funds, is behind the counter, and a volunteer works with people to get that food to them. But it's more about the relationship they have when they talk to each other. The food that's in front that people choose all comes in through donations. So when there are no food drives happening, we have very little product for people to choose from themselves. And I think that's so important, because I know I have favorite foods, and you must too. And to be able to pick that can up and look at it and choose, how much sodium you want or don't want in your soup is important. So I think it's those food drives, when people choose their healthiest favorite items, that we encourage them to bring those either to us directly during our open hours, or there are bins in most of the grocery stores. A lot of times the schools and the faith communities have food drives as well.
And I remember it really stuck with me one time before a Falmouth Town meeting, which always has a food drive for you, where you said, this time when you go into your pantry, why not take your favorite food and bring it in? And I thought that was sort of a eureka thing, such a simple thing. Mm-hmm. But, instead of the food you don't want, why not just take your favorite food and share it?
And the things that people think we need, like peanut butter, tuna fish, those type of items, we get those from the food bank through the Massachusetts Emergency Allocation. So it's the unusual other items that people love to see at the food pantry.
I'm Laura Reckford, and this is Sunday Journal. I'm talking to Brenda Swain from the Falmouth Service Center. And you touched on the new kind of food that you have, since you have a community garden there. So I wanted to be sure to talk about that. When
we moved into the new building, we were able to put in that garden, which is planted and grown by local people. A quarter of the people who are participants in the garden are clients at the food pantry. It's a way, an opportunity to give back, which is such an important need. I think sometimes it's very difficult for people to ask for help, and if we can find ways that people give back, that makes it so much easier and feel better to people, which is important. And so we get fresh produce from that garden. We also have increased the amount of fresh produce exponentially over the years, because we know that healthy foods are better when they're fresh or frozen. So we encourage in the summertime months, if you grow your own vegetables, plant an extra row for the food pantry in your community. If it's not Falmouth, wherever you are, because fresh vegetables are really appreciated by our clients throughout the Cape.
As we said at the beginning, the Falmouth Service Center has a whole range of other services besides the food, from financial assistance, helping people with health care access, housing stabilization. Tell me about some of these different programs you have.
Sure, I'd be happy to do that. Because we do provide other programs, sometimes people think of us just as a food pantry, Falmouth Service Center, our community food pantry. And we want you to think about us as Falmouth Service Center more than a food pantry. Oftentimes when somebody walks in the door for the first time, it's not because they want food. It may be because their lights are about to be turned off. They may be at risk of losing their house because they can't make a mortgage payment, simply because one of the people in the household, something's happened. They may have cancer. They might be under treatment. Someone might have passed away. You never know what's going to happen in life. And because of these situations, one of the services we provide to Falmouth residents is financial help. And when we sit with people, over 50% of the situations that we see for financial help are related to housing and the lack of affordable housing here on the Cape for people who are working hard but not earning enough to be able to pay the rate of housing here. So we do financial assistance. We also, when we sit with those people, encourage them to apply for fuel assistance or SNAP benefits, which is called food stamps. SNAP used to be food stamps, now called SNAP, right with us, as well as having mass health applications and other health network programs that they're possibly eligible for. So those types of services, along with our financial assistance, might help stabilize a family. We don't really ever give someone or a vendor, we don't give cash to people, we give money to vendors, but we never pay those payments unless we know the family's going to be stable going forward. And the way to do that is to create a safety net. So we bring other agencies to our location to provide that sort of wraparound support to residents of the Upper Cape. WeCan comes and provides legal consult, community Health Center and Community Action Committee come to provide health care access. We have volunteers who do fuel assistance and SNAP benefit applications. So those are some of those additional services. We also have holiday programs, and I'd like to take the opportunity to tell you that wherever you live throughout the Cape this year, your food pantry is going to struggle to get turkeys. More so than any other years because of the avian bird flu, the food bank is giving us half as many turkeys as last year. For Falmouth, that means we'll only get 148 birds instead of 286. And last year, we gave out over 1,000 turkeys. So we really need our community to come through. And in Falmouth, the Sunday before Thanksgiving, we'll be having a drive-through and drop-off those turkey days at 611 Gifford Street, but I'm sure if you check with your pantry wherever you are throughout the Cape, they too will be needing those turkeys. And then we will have a toy distribution for our families in December, and I know those happen Cape-wide as well. So we have holiday programs. We have special nutrition education programs. We talked about giving more fresh vegetables. Really, we have many, many people who come to food pantries who are at higher risk for diabetes and hypertension. So Cape Cod Healthcare gave the Hunger Network, which I co-chair, a grant to look at how can we help with diabetes and hypertension. And we piloted that program at Falmouth and saw that with weekly intervention of a health nurse to take your blood pressure and check your glucose, and nutrition educators to make you a recipe and talk to you about healthy foods and give you an extra bag of vegetables, you can make a marked difference in your health. We've had people who no longer take diabetes medicine as a result of this intervention.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and that program's been spread throughout the Cape now through the Hunger Network. So we're way more than just giving out food. We're really about helping people to connect to services, not just in Falmouth, but Cape-wide, so that they can have that safety net to be able to sustain and stay here on the Cape.
And you're really one of the larger service organizations Cape-wide, I think, who are doing these types of things. We have them in different parts of the Cape, but I think the Falmouth Service Center is certainly right among one of the largest agencies on the Cape doing this type of work. Isn't that right?
That is true. We are, as well as the Family Pantry of Cape Cod and the Islands. Yeah, I also want to say that it's because we connect with so many partners that we're able to do this work. We now have a mobile market in the Falmouth Public Schools where we're bringing this message of healthier foods to younger people so that they grow up wanting oranges instead of cookies. And we have a back-to-school clothing program that we have businesses and individuals all throughout the community who go shopping for our children. So Falmouth Service Center is really a community within the greater community, as is Harwich Pantry and many of the other local pantries. We couldn't do the work we do without the support and care of the greater communities.
And I did want to mention in the last few minutes we have left, you have a very special fundraising arm, the Emerald House.
Yep. Thank you very much for bringing that up. Our thrift shop generates income for the service center, about $65,000 a year, as well as 20% of their income goes to the Community Health Center of Cape Cod in Mashpee. When we initially bought the land and built the building, we knew we needed to have an ongoing income stream, and that was one of them, as well as our bottle redemption program. So if you love to be thrifty in your shopping, you will love the thrift shop. It's at 67 Davisville Road in East Falmouth. The women who volunteer over there go out of their way to make you feel welcome. The shop is gorgeous, and they would love your business, and it helps those in need on the Cape.
And it was a special way to preserve a historic home in Falmouth and sort of pay tribute to the Portuguese community here in Falmouth, because it was a home where a large Portuguese family lived, and they raised lots of children in that house.
Yes, and they had a huge strawberry farm on that location, too, right in back.
So it's a great Falmouth story, a great Falmouth location. Mm-hmm. Now, I know one of the new initiatives at the Service Center in the past couple of years, I think, is a new program called Falmouth Eats Together. Tell me about that.
What a wonderful way to wrap up our time together. We cook all the food at the Service Center in the production kitchen we put in our renovation in 2012. We prepare food for up to 300 folks who come. You don't need any reservation. All you need to do is be part of a community that cares about each other. People come from all walks of life. Many people are our clients, our donors, our volunteers, our just people who might be new to the community, who don't know anyone, people who may be isolated. A lot of seniors come, families come. Big brother, big sister is at the community meals occasionally, so that they can get new people to be big brothers and little brothers as well. So it's an opportunity for the community to come together to really meet new people. I have a story. Can I tell you a story?
Absolutely.
At the first dinner that we had, there was an elderly couple who had lost their landscaper, and it just so happened that they sat with someone who was a landscaper and in need of work, and they all left, one with a job and a couple with a new landscaper. So those are the type of connections that happen at Falmouth Eats Together.
And in the last few seconds, I just wanted to give you a final chance. Do you need volunteers there? Is that one way people can participate?
Thank you for asking that question. For years, people have said, we'll volunteer somewhere else because Falmouth Service Center has enough help. We need you. And all you need to do is go to our website, download an application, send it in, or you can stop by and pick up a written application if you'd like. We have a volunteer coordinator. Her name is Sharon Howard, and she would love to hear from you. With all these programs, we need a lot of diverse assistance.
And unfortunately, we've run out of time. I've been talking to Brenda Swain from the Falmouth Service Center. Brenda, thank you so much for being here with me today.
Thank you, Laura. It was my pleasure.
I'm Laura Reckford, and this is Sunday Journal.
This podcast is a presentation of Cape Cod Broadcasting, which is solely responsible for its content. Thank you for listening. For more information, please visit us at capecodbroadcasting.com.